I'm impressed at the quality of your facilitation, Arthur. It's I'm very grateful to you, and I'm also impressed that there's a German word. Philip will know what it is. Is it Sitzfleisch?
Sitzfleisch.
Can you define?
Sitzfleisch. Sitzfleisch.
Can you define it for us?
Sitzfleisch.
But what does it mean?
Butt meat.
It means the ability to sit long enough to endure something.
Yeah, Donald Knuth has his own Sitzfleisch story. Oh, well, when he was at Caltech, I was an undergraduate, he was on the faculty. He was beginning to write The Art of Computer Programming, and we would visit him in his office, and we noticed he had a cot in his office where he could lie down. And Knuth was, how to say this, one of his outstanding attributes was that he could, persist in a task at some length. And, he did talk about Sitzfleisch in a kind of a self-affirmative way. But I looked at that cot and I realized one of the keys to Sitzfleisch is the ability to sometimes just lie down.
Yeah, that's true. I was at Caltech also around that time. When were you there?
I graduated in '70. I was an undergraduate at Caltech.
I was in the class of '63 as an undergraduate.
Yeah, there you go.
Then I was a grad student and left in 1968.
Yeah, well, so we intersected for just a few years.
Yeah, right. Small world. Although I didn't really get to know Donald Knuth that well or anything. I remember his name, but I didn't really know him that well. I was in physics.
Oh, you were in physics. Yeah, I was a physics major.
Oh.
Share stories. I'd like to hear them. And Philip,
both particle physics.
Yeah, that's what I went into. Yeah, Murray Gelman was my advisor as a grad student, and I worked with him trying to make sense out of the quark model. And thing didn't always work, but I got a thesis written.
You were in the hard part because you were in theoretical physics.
Yeah.
I was lucky. I was an undergraduate, so I got to play, and ultimately my field was experimental physics. So I got to play with big machines. Of course, yeah. Philip knows the scene there in Europe with the largest of the large there in Geneva. Philip, you're in physics, right? Theory?
Yeah, most of my stuff has sort of been in cosmology, but yeah, so it's theory in that sense, but it's very specific to cosmology and astrophysics. Yeah.
Oh.
In fact, I'm actually, the background is different because I'm in a hotel room. I actually gave a talk today in Liège in Belgium, and restrictions have been lifted enough so that it's relatively easy to travel between countries if you stay less than 48 hours. I mean, whether that makes sense is another question, and no one has asked to see any documentation of anything, but the auditorium was deliberately sparsely populated, and most of the people were actually online. But interestingly, I think it was the only person who had the presentation done in LaTeX. I think most people are using PowerPoint or something similar these days, even though they use LaTeX to write their papers, which is a bit strange for me, but I don't know.
I saw the copy of Kip Thorne's book on your bookshelf one day.
No, the phone book, it's called.
Did you know
Okay.
Kip Thorne?
The book on gravitation by Charles Misner, Kip Thorne, and John Archibald.
Oh yeah, the big book, yes.
Yeah.
Did
I mean,
you know Kip?
it literally is about the size and shape of a phone book, and that's why it's called the phone book. but you know, phone books, do they even exist anymore? I think if you said to a young student today the phone book, they wouldn't associate that with a book of that size and shape, because you know, phone books like telephone booths, they've mostly disappeared. You know, it's something like a horse and carriage. Yeah.
That's true, a phone book. And dialing a phone, of course.
Oh yeah.
They still say dial anyway. Yeah, I knew Kip Thorne when he was at when I was at Caltech. I sat in on a general relativity class that he taught, and then I've seen him every once in a while since then.
I'd like to tell a couple of related jokes, in fact, they're both related to astronomy. The first is that you're aware, of course, of the Mandelbrot set, and it's part of the mathematics that was pioneered by two French people, Fatou and Julia. And Julia was the real mathematician in the sense that he was paid to be a mathematician, whereas Fatou worked at the observatory. And pure mathematics was his hobby. So I like to say that Fatou was a mathematician at night, but an astronomer at day. The other one is that the Russian mathematician, Vladimir Arnold, who proved with Kolmogorov a important results about the three-body problem, Earth, Sun, and Moon. He said that mathematics is that part of physics in which experiments are cheap. And I told this to astrophysicist Carol Haswell at the Open University. And without pause, she replied to me, and astrophysics is that part of physics where somebody else pays for the experiments, meaning, of course, the deity. And I thought that was a lovely way of putting it, that God is doing the experiments that the astrophysicists observe.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, whilst I'm telling jokes and you're not running away, it was my birthday a few days ago. And from my twin brother, actually, I got a birthday card. And it had some pearls of wisdom on the front of it. Forget about the past. It can't be changed. Forget about the future. You can't predict it. Forget about the present. I didn't get you one.
That's good.
So
Yeah,
I didn't get you one. I thought that was very funny.
that's good, yeah. I had a friend who was one of my classmates and was majored in astronomy and told me astronomers don't ever see anything out in the sky. They spend all their time in basements looking at spectra that other people took. I think maybe that's
Sure.
probably students who are astronomers.
True story. I remember someone saying, in all seriousness, one of the greatest advances in astronomy has been to ban astronomers from telescopes. And the fact of the matter is that these days, many observatories, they're run completely in service mode, which means you submit essentially some sort of file which describes what you want done. And okay, sometimes it's done automatically, but sometimes it's done by people. But these people are professional observers who do that every night and do it much more efficiently. And in the old days, you would have some professor who lectures 30 weeks a year, get time on a telescope for 10 nights and go there. And the last time it was there was 2 years ago. Now you've got a different system. Very inefficient. And since astronomers no longer go to telescopes, it's become much more efficient.
Yeah, I guess.
The computer scientist Edgar Dijkstra had something to say about telescopes. He said, computer science is no more about computers than astronomy is about telescopes.
Yeah, there is something. Maybe you could talk about experimental astronomers and theoretical astronomers. I don't know.
I think that's a good example, because most people don't really have an idea about what computer science is really about. But I think most people can really get the distinction between astronomy and telescopes in the sense that telescope is a means to an end, whereas computer science in some sense is really not about computers. I remember recently the computer scientist Scott Aronson said that a PhD in computer science left him completely unprepared for the job of webmaster. I think that sort of sums it up.
Isaac Newton constructed the telescope, a reflecting telescope.
Pardon?
Isaac Newton constructed the first reflecting telescope.
Well, at that time, things weren't so specialized. When I was a student, I don't think there was a computer science major at the time. If you were going to do computers, you actually sat at the computer with flashing lights and pushed the execute button and things like that. Wrote things in machine language.
When I was a student, Dana Scott gave courses on modal logic as part of the maths and philosophy degree. And he was subsequently a Turing Prize winner for his work on concurrent, I think it's concurrency, I can't remember what it was for, but with Strachey. And I didn't realize until sometime afterwards, long time afterwards, that he was a computer scientist. I thought he was a mathematician. And I suppose he thought he was a mathematician or a logician in some sense.
Jonathan, could you repeat that name?
Dana Scott, D-A-N-A-S-C-O-G-T. I have to say he didn't teach me anything because I was not a very good student. Yeah. Born in 1932. Emeritus professor.